This is probably the most recognisable part of the Tower of London. It's the White Tower, situated slap bang in the middle of the Tower of London complex. And today we're going to go through the White Tower, show you what it's got to offer inside, but also tell you about its history as well. As you enter the White Tower, you've got all of the armoury from the different kings, plus also that they used to put on the horses as well. The whole of the Tower of London complex was originally started building in 1066, but the White Tower first had its foundation stones laid between 1075 and 1079 and took 20 to 25 years to build. Now, a great thing about coming in here is just having a look through the windows, having a look around, and you can see some of the old original staircases here at the Tower of London in the White Tower. The White Tower replaced some of the temporary timber fortifications that had been thrown up quickly by the invading Normans to consolidate their hold on London. When the White Tower was first built, it contained 2 floors above a deep basement, and now each of the floors was divided by a wall, which split the building from the north to the south and into 2 large chambers, and on the upper floor an ornate chapel, which we're going to show you later. A 3rd floor was inserted in 1490 when the original roof was taken down and a new roof was built above it to accommodate the additional story. And when you look at the armoury they wore, it's hard to believe they were actually able to move in it, and yes, it was a good protection, but even so, how the heck did they move in it? And also the weight of it was quite incredible. So you've seen Henry VIII, this is Charles I's armoury. Now, interestingly enough, the hall in which we're in fills the whole western half of the building at this level, and it's the first of a suite of chambers through everyone walks through, and it's always been that way. Now, the precise original function of this hall and the rooms on the floor is still a bit unclear. No one's actually got to the bottom of what actually happened in these rooms. However, each is provided with a fireplace, and some of the earliest in England, which was a new innovation in the 11th century. In our series of videos looking at the Tower of London, it's been quite incredible because actually it was a palace here, but everyone thinks of it as being torture. And speaking of torture, this is the Collar of Torment, which is actually from 1547. Now here we've moved up to the next floor, and on this floor there's a chapel, but we're going to go to that very shortly, and it was the King's private chapel. But its position on this floor suggests that these rooms, this one and the one we're going to show you in just a second, which is next door, were his own hall and chamber where he and his family lived, and also where he enacted ceremonies of government. And you'll notice as well these big fireplaces, that's both in here and also next door, which would have kept the place really warm, and they would have been once richly furnished and hung with fine textiles from the walls. And of course, if you were having your own rooms, you'd want your own toilets facilities as well. Now in the Tower of London there are 2 different chapels, one of which we've covered previously, St Peter ad Vincula. This one is St John the Evangelist, and it was constructed as a place of worship for William the Conqueror, and the chapel of St John the Evangelist in the White Tower here has had a long and surprising history. Now it's on the 1st floor, and this is the 11th century chapel, which offers a highly decorated and impressive space suitable for royal worship. Now the barrel vaulted roof and the upper gallery made it the highest room in the White Tower when it was first built, and while strikingly carved with capitals on top of the pillars, would have added further to its status and appearance. Just look at those views from above, and then you've also got some stained glass windows as well. So this chapel would have been used by the royal family for worship while they were staying at the tower, and it's likely the king himself would have sat on a raised throne at the west end during services. But by the 13th century, the construction of other buildings meant that this chapel was then started to be used as storage, and it stayed in this role for 600 years before it was rediscovered and brought to life as we've just shown you. Now here we're up on the 3rd floor, so not only have you got more armour, but you've got various different weapons up here from the various times throughout history as well. So not only think about how heavy the suits of armour were, but how heavy that lance was as well, that they may well have been carrying at the time on the back of their horses. Yep, you've got to pity the horses. Right here, you've got a collection of swords, and these are the different swords used by the different monarchs over the time. Right, what I wanted to bring you and just give you the effect of walking through the stairs of the White Tower. And the reason of doing that is just look, you could almost feel like you've gone back in time, back to King Henry VIII's time in the 1500s, and walking up and down these stairs, and also getting great views across the rest of the Tower of London if you stop and just take a second to look out of the windows. But do be careful because it's very, very busy, so there's lots of people behind you. Now, the original of these items, which are used during the coronation, and you may well have seen them in the recent coronation of King Charles III, and that's the oil anointment spoon, and also there's the bird which had the oil in. They've got copies here just to remind you to go to the jewel house. But this is sort of a hidden treasure trove which lots of people don't go walking down. So whatever you do, if you get the chance to get up here, just walk through these arches, because not only are they narrow, but you're walking through old brickwork. And once again, it really does take you back through time. And also, you get fantastic views like this across the whole of the Tower of London compound. Right, so as you can see, access to the White Tower is not really on if you have accessibility issues, so if you've got pushchairs or in a wheelchair or something like that. This is one you're not going to be able to get into. Something else we also need to talk about as well is if you're coming down here, not during the summer holidays, but at other times, it is always busy because you've got lots and lots of school parties. So if you fancy avoiding those, make sure you're here first thing in the morning when it opens up, or alternatively, leave it till after 3 o'clock when all the kids have gone back to their coaches on their way back home. There you go. Right, here's another interior look as well. It's another view of inside the castle walls as you're going up and down the turrets to the different floors. To get up and down, you follow a very carefully done route so you can't get lost, but also you've got gates going across to stop people from going into places that they shouldn't be allowed to go to. So now we're down in the basement area of the White Tower, and this was probably used for storage. It certainly wasn't used for cooking because there's no sign of any sort of ovens or catering or anything like that down here, and would have been done in a separate building, but certainly used for storage, which is what it is sort of used for now, because you've got a collection of guns in store, cannons, also cannonballs and various other things as well, like the pointy ends of spears, which aren't quite there, but it's quite a collection just to come down and see. So here you've got quite a selection of cannons with different markings and different pieces of art on it, but here, this cannon right here in the middle is one that actually blew up when they fired it at some point, and they've kept the remnants so you can see it here at the Tower of London. So when I said about storage in the Tower of London, the White Tower basement being used as storage, I wasn't kidding. These are just different artefacts that have been collected over time. That winged lion was captured in 1809 from Crete during a Napoleonic battle, and for some unknown reason, it's ended up here in the basement. I hope you're enjoying our video on the White Tower here at the Tower of London, and if you are, do us a favour, will you give us a big thumbs up so we can get this video spread out to more people so that they can love London as well and see this classic bit of history. Now, as you're down here in the basement, you've already done the higher floors and you've worked your way down before actually leaving. But one of the things you really do need to take note of, because it's quite easy just to go, oh, well, we're almost there at the end, time to go. When you get down here, there's quite a dark area here. Now, they've got a video film that's actually going, but what you've got sight of here is the Norman foundations. So what they've done is they've dug up the area and then they've put perspex over the top of it. So you can see some of the original Norman foundations of the White Tower here at the Tower of London. So you really are looking back in history. And And as you can see, everyone's making a beeline for the door and not coming anywhere near here. So it's one of those brilliant little things to come and have a look at. Also, take your time to take in the ambience of this room and just think that this was originally built in 1076-ish, and it's still here now, and you're in a room that's like 1,000 years old. Okay, now the reason everyone's rushing through their door is because it's coming to the end of the whole place, but also you're coming into the gift shop. So once again, when you go in there, it's really easy to walk past this, but this is the well. Yes, it's 12 meters deep, and that has been here and provided fresh water from about 1100. So whatever you do, when you go into the gift shop, don't worry about looking at the gifts. You can have a look at that after, and there's loads of gift shops around, but you want to make sure you come and capture a look at this well, which supplied the Tower of London with fresh water. So, what did you think of the White Tower? Let us know in the comments down below. And what was your favourite bit? Do let us know. Now, if you've not been to the Tower of London, we've done a fantastic video on one of the other chapels here. We've shown you one of the chapels within the White Tower. We've also got a video on the other chapel as well. And I've put a link to that up in the top right hand corner. So you want to go and have a look at that next. See you in there.